Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachach Badash, and double honors unto our elders and apostles of JMS Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Shalom, shalom. This is Brother Nabala here with a lesson. All right, this is an article that I came across on End Time Headlines. And, it says here 70% of U.S. farmers say that they will not be able to purchase all the fertilizer that they need in 2026. All right. So, this is just an article, that I came across, and this is just more of a insight, all right, that a famine is soon to come. Okay. So, right here, it says here, this is an opinion, but it says we might want to listen to what the farmers are telling us, because if they don't grow our food, we do not eat. Coming into this year, it says we were already facing the worst farming crisis in America in the last 50 years. It says farmers all over the nation are drowning in debt, and farm bankruptcies have been soaring. In all my years, I have never seen America's farmers so angry. And now the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz has made things much worse. All right, because that's how these farmers, that's how they get their fertilizer. All right. And so, with the Straits of Hormuz, being cut off, all right, that affects, these farmers, being able to purchase, this fertilizer, because it caused the price of things to go up. All right. Once the Straits of Hormuz closed. All right. So now, these farmers, they can't afford it. All right, they can't afford the fertilizer, and you need fertilizer to pretty much fertilize the ground. All right. It says spring planting season is here, and there is a global scramble for whatever supplies of nitrogen fertilizer that happen to be available. As a result, prices have skyrocketed, and farmers all over the planet are facing some incredibly tough choices. All right, so that's what the ground depends on. The nitrogen fertilizer. All right. You see, now if the right people were ruling, all right, there's a thing called a land Sabbath. All right, that we're supposed to, that it's part of the law. All right, you're supposed to give the land rest. All right, so now Esau Edom has to make this fertilizer for the food to depend on. All right, because the food can't produce its own minerals and things like that to sustain these plants. All right, so that's Esau Edom right there, man. He's ruling in wickedness. All right, you're supposed to have a land Sabbath, man. All right, and that's going against the laws of Yahweh Shai, Shai, man. All right, this damn devil. All right, he made it to where the land has to depend on fertilizer in order to create the crops. All right, now this being a engineered famine. All right, this devil, he has the say so of bringing in fertilizer, upping the price on fertilizer. All right, so the earth was given in the hands of the wicked. All right, and this is what these farmers have to deal with. All right, and ultimately, this is affecting, all right, the world economy. It says that is even true here in the United States, according to the brand new survey that was just conducted by the American Farm Bureau Federation. 70% of the U.S. farmers say that they will not be able to purchase all of the fertilizer that they need in 2026 because it has become expensive. All right, so they can't afford it. So if the farmers can't afford to bring fertilizer, all right, to fertilize the crops, all right, that means that it's going to be a food shortage. All right, that means they won't be able to produce any crops for food. All right, so ultimately that's going to bring forth the famine, man. It says conducted by the American Farm Bureau Federation, April 3rd through 11th. The survey shows 7% of respondents say the fertilizer is so expensive that they will not be able to buy all the fertilizer they need. It says more than 5,700 farmers, both farm bureau members and non-members from every state and Puerto Rico took the survey. The Farm Bureau economist analyzed the results in the last market intel. It says the analyst reveals that almost 8 in 10 farmers, you see, in the southern US say they can't afford all needed supplies this year, followed by the Northeast and West at 69% and 66% respectively, compared to the 48% of the farmers in the Midwest. Damn, man, that's a lot, man. That's a lot of farmers, man, that can't, afford, this, fertilizer, man. All right, to fertilize these crops. All right, so ultimately, man, that's going to bring in a famine. All right, but the scriptures talk about, how this war and in Straits of Hormuz and all the, this is going to collapse the world economy, man. The farmers are going to mourn. All right, the farmers are going to mourn, man. Let's get into some scriptures real quick. Let's get the book of Joel. Let's get the book of Joel. What is it? 1. In verse, let's get through 10 through 12. All right, it says here, the field is wasted and the land mourneth. All right, for the corn is wasted and the new wine is dried up. The oil languish. Okay, it says, be ye ashamed, O ye husbands, how, O ye vine dressers, for the wheat and for the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. You see, the wine is dried up and the fig tree languish, the pomegranate tree and the palm tree also and the apple tree, even all the trees of the field are withered, because joy is withered away from the sons of men. All right, so this is getting into food shortages, man. The agricultural system collapsing. That's what this is getting into. All right, this is the effect that the war has. All right, and closing down the Straits of Hormuz has on these farmers, man, to the point they can't afford this fertilizer. All right, so things are gonna continue. Things are gonna continually to get worse, and you're gonna continue to see the price of things go up. All right, once once the famine gets to a whole nother level. All right, you're gonna see prices of corn go up, prices of apples, things like that, man. You're gonna see these things taking place here, man, pretty soon. Okay, let's get the book of Isaiah. What is it? 24. Slovakia 4 through 7. This is Isaiah 24, 4 through 7. It says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away, and the world languish and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. All right, the haughty, man, Esau, Edom. All right. It says the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. All right, under who? All right, under the rulership of Esau, Edom, man. Okay, because they have transgressed the laws and changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. All right, Esau, Edom has done that, man. All right, he goes against the laws of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. Like I said before, man, in the land, you're supposed to keep a land Sabbath. And Esau, Edom, totally goes against that. All right. It says, therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. It says, the new wine mourneth, the vine languish, and all the merry-hearted do sigh, man. All right. So eventually, this it's affecting the production of food, man. All right, this is affecting, the production of food. Ultimately, this is a judgment. All right, from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right, ultimately, man. All right, this is ultimately judgment from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. The scriptures say, that he will bring. Matter of fact, let's get that. Let's get that. uh, this is in Ezekiel, I believe. 5:16. This is Ezekiel 5:16. It says, "When I shall send upon the evil arrows of famine, or which shall be for the destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you, and will break the staff of your bread." All right. So this is only going to increase. All right. It's only going to get worse from here, man. All right. These farmers can't afford these fertilizer, man. So that means there's going to be less crops, to be produced, And if there's less crops to be produced, then, that's going to cause a shortage, man. And there's so many people to feed, across this world, man. Especially here in Babylon. All right. So it's not going to be enough food, man. Eventually, it's going to be rationing of food. All right. That's eventually what's going to take place. You see? Let's get the book of Amos. What is it? 5. What is it? 5. Slovakia. Let's get this. This is Ezekiel 5:16. It says, "Therefore, Yahweh Shemel Shai, the power of hosts." It says, "Yahweh Shemel saith, thus wailing shall be in the streets, and they shall say in all the highways, Alas, alas," meaning destruction, destruction. "And they shall call the husbandman to mourning, and such as are skillful of lamentation to wailing." It says, "And in all the vineyards shall be wailing, for I will pass through thee, saith Yahweh Shemel Shai." All right, the husbandman gets into the farmers, man. All right, this is gonna this is gonna it's affecting the farmers so much, man, that they're mourning. All right, and there's nothing they could do about this, because ultimately, this is through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, man. This is a judgment that Yahweh Shemel Shai is bringing forth, as you read in the book of Ezekiel 5. All right, the evil arrows of famine. All right. So, these farmers can't do nothing about this, man. All right. And Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to bring famine hard, man. All right. That's what this is coming down to. All right. Desolation, destruction. All right. Woes and lamentations is coming upon this place. You see? That's what's coming upon this place, man. All right. These farmers are mourning, man. These farmers are going through it. All right. They're not able to afford fertilizer. They're not able to produce crop. All right. And ultimately, man, that's how they live. That's how they get their bread. All right. Ultimately, you see. So, this whole thing, man, with the Straits of Hormuz and, this war, is having a trickle effect on the world economy. All right. On the agricultural, aspect. All right. So, I want to get one more. Let's get the book of Revelations. What is it? 6 in verse 5 and 6. All right. It says, you see the top, it says the third seal, famine. All right. It says, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard a third beast say, Come and see. And behold, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had pairs of balances in his hand." All right. It says, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." All right. So, it talks about in the end times, man, there's going to be food shortages. All right. The prices of food is going to go up. People are not going to be able to afford, afford food here soon, man. All right. You're gonna be paying outrageous prices, man, for some bread. All right, you're gonna be paying outrageous prices for some chicken, because of this food shortage that's getting ready to come here, man. All right, here in Babylon the Great, man, and it's gonna hit hard. All right, what is this, man? What is the scripture of let's get that. Let's get that. Let's get that, man. Second Esdras 8:50. Second Esdras 8:50 says here, for many great miseries should be done to them that in their latter times shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride, man. Miseries. All right. Let's matter of fact, let's look up this word misery. All right, here in the etymology. All right, it says a state of grievous affliction, conditions of external unhappiness, miserable situation, man. That's these people are going to be in a miserable situation here, man. Once this famine hits, misfortune, distress. All right, wrench, pitiable, a condition of great sorrow or mental distress. All right, many sorrows. These are just the beginning of sorrows, man. All right, these are just the beginning of sorrows. All right, let's get this right here. Sorrow, grief, regret, trouble. You see, care, pain, anxiety. All right, you see. So trouble is coming. All right, anxiety is coming. Upon these people, man. Okay. Let's see here. Look up the word mourn. To feel or express sorrow, grief, or regret, bemoan long after. Be anxious about. Be careful. All right. So, that's a lot of these farmers are mourning. All right. A lot of these farmers are anxious. A lot of these farmers are going through sorrows. They're mourning right now, man. All right, because of what's taking place, man. How this war and closing out the Strait of Hormuz is having a trickle effect, on the agricultural the agricultural aspect, man. All right. So these are the times that we're in, man. And it's only continue to get worse, man. Matthew 24 tells you, man, these are the beginning of sorrows, man. So this is just the beginning, man. All right. So, I just thought, I'll put that out there, man. Warn the flock. All right. A famine is coming straight down the pipe, man. All right. A famine is coming straight down the pipe, man. Food shortages are coming. All right. And hey, man, hope and pray, that Yahweh Bashim Abishai, count you worthy, man, to be delivered in these last days, man. Pray that you're part of the elect. All right. To be delivered. All right. From these famines. All right. The scriptures say that his servants shall eat. All right. His elect is going to eat, man. All right. You got to truly believe that. You got to truly believe that Yahweh Shema Shai is going to take care of his elect. All right. In these last days, man. All right. Because we're coming in some real perilous times right now. All right. So, with that being said, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachach Wadash, and double honors to all elders and apostles of GMS, the Great Millstone, who teach and rule well. And this is Brother Nabala to the next lesson. Shalom, shalom.